Welcome, listeners, to The Deep Dive. We're here to unpack the fascinating stories and crucial insights hidden within the sources you've shared, transforming complex narratives into clear, engaging explorations. Last time, in Heartfelt Harmony, Season 1, Episode 6, A New Path, we left Nyla and Brody facing, well, maybe their most personal challenge yet. Their incredible success had suddenly brought them face-to-face with individual, life-altering career opportunities. Nyla was offered the chance to lead a groundbreaking research initiative.
Right, a huge scientific opportunity.
Exactly. And Brody received this really prestigious position at a prominent law firm.
The kind of offer that changes everything.
Yet forced them to confront the possibility that their paths might be diverging. And we were left wondering how their ambition and personal aspirations might challenge the very partnership that defines them, even as they aim to stay true to their shared vision. Today, we're going to bring their powerful journey in heartfelt harmony to what feels like a really profound conclusion. We've watched them grow, haven't we? Right from that initial meeting at a community seminar on climate change.
Driven by
That shared passion for a better future. We've seen their unique collaboration, blending environmental science and legal advocacy, push forward despite some serious setbacks.
Oh, absolutely. Bureaucratic red tape, differing opinions, even within their own teams.
And remember the crisis with Nyla's report. Missing data points.
A huge moment. A real test of integrity.
And how they turned that unexpected viral video moment into this powerful beacon for their work.
The Water Warriors thing really took off.
Their resilience, their determination. It led to genuinely innovative solutions that got attention from local leaders, built up that community support. And now, as we arrive at what the sources describe as the 7th episode of this arc, Season 1, Episode 7, Legacy of Harmony, we get to witness the culmination of their unwavering commitment. We'll examine the resilience that led them here to this critical juncture, those foundational moments that forged their unique bond, and crucially, how they ultimately navigated that profound dilemma about their individual paths to solidify a lasting legacy. What deep insights can we really pull from their journey about collaboration, resilience, and that relentless pursuit of a better future? The riddle, the resolve, and the reckoning. Foundations of resilience.
So to really get a handle on Nyla and Brody's journey, I think we need to revisit that rule we talked about. It just perfectly captures their whole dynamic, their challenges, their core identity.
Ideal in truths, yet can be unseen or lost. My partner battles wrongs no matter the cost. We face a giant who values gain, then turn to roots to break the chain. What am I, this powerful blend that champions Earth to the very end?
Right, and the answer, which I bet a lot of you listeners figured out, is that powerful blend of science and law. Their unique partnership. What's really striking, though, is how precisely each line maps onto their roles and their collective struggle. It's like a mini manifesto. Let's start with Nyla. She's the truths unseen or lost. Her whole world is environmental science, hard facts, ecological data, objective truth. But these truths, like the riddle says, aren't always obvious. They can be buried in complex reports, hidden by jargon, or, well, sometimes deliberately lost or compromised.
Especially when powerful interests are involved, right? People who don't want those truths out there.
Exactly. Think about it. If you're a company and the science shows you're causing environmental damage, that data is inconvenient. It hits the bottom line. So truths can be actively hidden, discredited, ignored. Nyla's job wasn't just discovery, it was revelation, often fighting against deliberate obfuscation.
That really paints a picture. So Nyla's uncovering these facts, these scientific realities about the planet's health, but often those facts are a direct threat to powerful groups. It's like being an environmental detective, but someone keeps trying to burn the evidence.
That's a great way to put it. And then you have Brody, her partner. He battles wrongs no matter the cost. He works in that complex, sometimes messy world of law and advocacy. So when Nyla brings those hidden truths to light, maybe data showing pollution in a water source, he steps in. He fights for those truths to matter in the legal system, challenging environmental violations, holding companies accountable, addressing those systemic injustices that let the damage happen in the first place. He uses the law, essentially, as both a shield and a sword for Nyla's science. He translates the what is from science into the legal what should be.
It really does sound like such a strong pairing. Nyla finds the what, Brody fights for the should, but I wonder, how does Brody make sure Nyla's detailed science doesn't get watered down or twisted in court? That must be tricky.
That's a fantastic question, and it gets right to the heart of their connection. Brody's role wasn't just about winning cases, it was about protecting the scientific integrity within that legal battlefield. So strategies like really rigorous pretrial data checks, making sure Nyla's methods could stand up to intense scrutiny, like cross-examination. They'd meticulously prepare expert witness testimony, poaching Nyla and her team to explain complex science clearly, persuasively, but without losing the accuracy. That's a fine line to walk.
For a judge or jury.
Right. And Brody might use innovative legal arguments, too. Maybe arguments incorporating Nyla's predictive modeling, arguing not just about past harm, but using science to argue for preventing future harm.
Wow.
That takes a really deep shared understanding. They had to build a common language between science and law.
And together, they face that giant who values gain. That sounds like serious opposition. The sources imply this wasn't just a disagreement, it was organized resistance.
Oh, absolutely. Formidable, multi-pronged resistance. Think sophisticated lobbying campaigns aimed at weakening regulations, high-powered PR firms hired specifically to discredit Nyla's science, spreading doubt.
Muddying the waters.
Precisely. And, likely, those strategic lawsuits, SLAPP suits, designed just to bleed them dry, drain their resources, their time, their energy, their morale.
Even if they knew they wouldn't ultimately win the lawsuit itself.
Exactly. It's a war of attrition, a deliberate pushback to keep things as they are, where short-term profit trumps long-term environmental health. And this raises a huge question for anyone fighting these battles. How do you build resilience against that kind of deliberate, well-funded opposition? What the sources show is not just their personal toughness, but a really smart strategic shift.
Right, the turn to roots to break the chain, part of the riddle.
Yes. They pivoted. They realized maybe head-on collisions weren't the only way, or even the best way. So instead of focusing only on top-down lawsuits and policy fights, they started investing heavily in the community, organizing, educating, empowering the actual citizens who are dealing with the environmental problems firsthand.
Like saying, the front door is blocked by the giant, let's build power through the back door from the ground up.
Exactly. Build power from the bottom up. That's how they aim to break the chain of environmental damage, that chain held by systemic issues, legal loopholes, lack of accountability.
It's really inspiring. But when you turn to roots and empower citizens like that, does that create new risks? Couldn't those community efforts be targeted too, maybe with campaigns to discredit them? How did Nyla and Brody handle that?
That's a critical point, and it highlights the ethical side of their work. Protecting those community efforts would demand new strategies. For Brody, maybe focusing on First Amendment rights for activists, fighting against SLAP suits aimed at community members, perhaps setting up legal defense funds.
Protecting the protectors, in a way.
Yes, and for Nyla, it meant doubling down on clear, accessible communication, giving community members the solid, verifiable data they needed to counter any misinformation campaigns. It's about that ethical responsibility, getting the science out there, not just to academics, but to the public who needs it. So this dual approach, legal protection and scientific empowerment, built a kind of shield around their grassroots movement. It showed a deep understanding of environmental justice. The people most affected often have the most powerful voices. And that whole experience, that pivot, it didn't just solve that immediate problem. It massively strengthened their partnership, preparing them for even bigger challenges.
And speaking of bigger challenges, as if the external giants weren't enough, they get hit with that crisis from within. The scientific report, the very bedrock of their work, suddenly compromised. Missing data, missing calculations. It left us hanging, wondering how they could possibly bounce back from something that hits right at their core integrity.
Right. It's such a cliffhanger moment. And what's striking is, while the sources don't spell out every single step they took to fix it,
we know they did fix it.
we know they did. The narrative context makes it clear. They move forward, they get into subsequent phases like building bridges. That tells us they absolutely navigated this crisis. And this wasn't just a minor error. It felt like a serious breach, maybe even sabotage, aimed at derailing everything. The ethical weight, especially for Nyla. Her whole profession is built on verifiable truth.
For Nyla, whose world revolves around data integrity, this must have felt almost like a personal attack. How do you even begin to tackle something like that? Something aimed right at your credibility? Her reputation, maybe her career, was on the line.
For Nyla the scientist, it would have demanded just an extraordinary level of scientific rigor, almost obsessive, and an absolute commitment to ethical practice. She might have had to literally redo fieldwork, recollect crucial data, maybe using advanced tech like hyperspectral imaging to spot subtle pollution effects, or mass spectrometry for really precise analysis.
Cutting-edge stuff to prove the point.
Exactly. Running entirely new experiments, maybe with independent verification, implementing super strict chain of custody protocols for samples, maybe even using something like blockchain for immutable data logging to prevent tampering down the line. Her goal would be prove the data's integrity beyond any shadow of a doubt. make every reconstructed data point not just accurate, but demonstrably bulletproof in court. Her scientific credibility was her shield.
So Nyla's deep in the scientific trenches, rebuilding that foundation of trust, brick by painstaking brick. What's Brody doing during all this? What's the legal play when your core evidence has been compromised?
Well, for Brody, the legal advocate, this was a legal minefield, going way beyond just a standard case. His job was navigating the fallout, maybe filing emergency motions for discovery, trying to force disclosure from anyone suspected of compromising the data, using subpoenas to get documents, emails, anything relevant.
Trying to find out who did it and how.
Exactly. And if it looked deliberate, he might even investigate. If it rose to the level of something like a racketeer-influenced and corrupt organizations act, if it seemed like an organized effort to suppress their work.
That's
Very serious. He'd file motions in court to basically invalidate the compromise report, arguing it had no scientific validity anymore, protecting Nyla's reputation that way. And crucially, he'd be managing the public narrative, carefully framing what happened to the public, to regulators, turning what was meant as a killing blow into an argument for stricter data rules, more transparency, maybe better whistleblower protections.
so turning an attack into leverage for future change.
Precisely. But it's a delicate balance, exposing wrongdoing without jeopardizing ongoing cases or making unproven accusations. Huge ethical considerations there, too.
So it's way more than just fixing the data. It's this multi-layered response. Scientifically rebuilding, legally defending, holding people accountable, and managing the public trust. It really underscores how their combined skills, driven by that shared passion and commitment to truth, got them through.
Absolutely. It solidified their integrity, showed their resilience, and actually propelled their work into bigger phases. A powerful demonstration of that interdisciplinary bond. 2. The Genesis of Harmony. Season 1, The Intersection of Worlds.
So to really appreciate where they ended up and those huge challenges like the data crisis and the career offers, we have to rewind, go right back to the beginning, the genesis of this partnership. The sources point us to Heartfelt Harmony, Season 1, The Intersection of Worlds. It starts, simply enough, a community seminar on climate change. You can almost picture it, right? Concerned citizens, experts talking, maybe slightly stale coffee.
Exactly. And in that room, Nyla and Brody connect. And what's amazing is that even in those very first conversations, that profound shared passion for a better future just clicks. It wasn't just a passing interest. It was deeper, a core conviction that cut across their different backgrounds. A shared why. Exactly. That common ground, that commitment to positive change, it immediately set the stage for this unique collaboration blending environmental science and law. It felt maybe almost inevitable, despite how different their fields were.
And they were so different. Nyla, all about the rigorous, data-driven science, the empirical truth, the ecological systems, understanding what's happening.
Facts.
And Brody, grounded in the legal world, rights, justice, accountability, how to actually make change happen within the rules of society.
They saw it almost instantly, didn't they? How combining Nyla's deep understanding of the problems with Brody's grasp of the legal levers could lead to real, effective solutions. Not just theory, but practical application.
And they didn't wait long to test it out.
No, that shared passion moved quickly from talk to action. The sources say they started working together on a specific community project. We don't know the exact details, but we can imagine something tangible, community-focused.
Like maybe innovative graywater recycling for urban areas, or pushing for local urban reforestation policies, something needing both science and navigating local rules.
Exactly. Something hands-on. And this wasn't just a hypothetical case study. It was a real-world test of their synergy right from the start.
And that hands-on part was absolutely critical, wasn't it? It forced them out of the theoretical.
Oh, completely. It made them confront the messy realities of implementation. Because we all know, putting ideas into practice is where the real challenges pop up. Ideals meet bureaucracy, human factors, nitty-gritty. And through that joint project, they really started to get the challenges each other faced daily. Nyla, the scientist, starts grappling with navigating permits for a rain garden or understanding property rights when pushing for conservation. She might be focused on water quality, while Brody's explaining the local zoning laws or water rights issues, and vice versa. Brody, the lawyer, gets a real insight into the scientific rigor needed. Why data collection has to be so precise, why experiments need validation, the long-term ecological consequences of a legal decision. He might suggest a legal tactic, And Nyla would explain the exact science needed to back it up, or warn about potential unintended ecological effects of a policy.
So it wasn't just learning about each other's fields. It was building real empathy, respect, finding that strategic alignment.
Absolutely. Cementing the foundation, building trust, developing that shared language like a Rosetta Stone for science and law.
And then things took a turn nobody expected. That viral moment, it really shows their growing influence and how public awareness can sometimes just ignite. Their community project starts getting attention, but not in a planned way.
Right.
It kicks off with a short, raw video clip capturing their partnership.
Totally unpolished, authentic. It featured Nyla explaining complex science, maybe hydrology in really simple terms. Perhaps standing by a bioswale showing how it works, making the science visible.
Making the unseen seen.
Exactly. And at the same time, Brody's outlining the clever legal strategies they used. Maybe highlighting an old bylaw they repurposed to get their project approved, showing how to work within the system to innovate. That authenticity just clicked with people.
And this video, the one we called Water Warriors, Science Meets Justice, it just blew up, went viral, millions of viewers. What did that mean for them at that point?
It was huge. It became this powerful symbol of hope, showing how combining disciplines could tackle big issues. It led to this flood of inquiries, support, media calls. It basically launched their work onto a much bigger stage, way faster than they ever planned.
So overnight, almost, they went from a local project to being part of a national conversation. It solidified their reputation as this effective, hopeful force. 3, scaling up and deepening impact, building bridges, Season 2, Episode 2. So building on that early work, that viral success, Nyla and Brody move into a new phase, more ambitious. We've called it building bridges. They weren't just continuing. They were diving deeper, really pushing the boundaries of integrating environmental science and legal advocacy.
This wasn't just repeating what worked. It was about innovating, proving their blended model could handle even bigger things. Systemic change, not just local projects. Yeah. Imagine them tackling large-scale industrial pollution, maybe Superfund sites, or advocating for statewide water policy changes using advanced modeling, or even creating legal frameworks for climate adaptation in vulnerable areas.
So scaling up significantly,
bigger stakes, and a growing ethical weight as their influence expanded. They were trying to prove this wasn't a fluke, but a necessary replicable model for complex environmental problems.
But scaling up like that is never easy. The sources mention setbacks, struggles.
Oh, it wasn't smooth sailing. You can almost feel the frustration, that soul-crushing bureaucracy, endless permits, multiple agencies, government processes grinding incredibly slowly.
Trying to take a local idea, citywide or statewide, suddenly you're drowning in red tape.
Exactly. Makes you want to give up sometimes. But what's interesting is it wasn't just external hurdles.
Internal friction, too.
Yes. As their teams grew, bringing in more scientists, more lawyers, they naturally hit differing opinions. Internal friction. Think about it. Some scientists might question legal compromises needed to pass a policy. Are we diluting the science too much here? Is this still accurate?
Well, the lawyers might be pushing back on the time needed for scientific certainty.
Right. We have a court deadline. This level of certainty is good enough for the injunction. We can't wait 6 months for the perfect study.
Different professional cultures clashing. What counts as success? What's acceptable risk? It varies.
Totally. That ethical balance between scientific precision and legal pragmatism becomes this constant internal negotiation, a real challenge for any interdisciplinary team.
So how do they manage that? How do you turn that internal tension, which could tear a team apart, into a strength, especially when you're already fighting giants outside?
Well, crucially, the sources suggest it's through those trials, the external bureaucracy, the internal debates, that their partnership actually got stronger, solidified. Their determination to truly integrate, not just coexist, deepen their bond. It forced better communication, deeper empathy. They had to really listen, really understand each other's perspectives.
No more just staying in their disciplinary silos.
Exactly. They had to find creative compromises that respected the integrity of both science and law. Build that shared understanding and trust even further. That resilience, that commitment to the shared vision, forged an almost unbreakable bond. The collaboration itself evolved, became stronger, because it survived that pressure. It's a key lesson, really.
And the reward for all that struggle? Genuine breakthroughs. The sources call them innovations, not just improvements. New ways of thinking that came directly from fusing science and law.
Right. Let's make that concrete. Maybe Nyla's team develops an advanced way to model pollution spread using something like computational fluid dynamics. Really complex stuff. But instead of just publishing it, they work intensely with Brody's team to make sure that model is legally rock solid. Designed from the start to be persuasive and admissible in court.
Science designed for legal impact.
Precisely. Or conversely, Brody crafts a new legal tool, like an environmental injunction based not just on proven past harm, but on Nyla's predictive modeling of future damage.
So they can intervene proactively, stop
Yeah.
pollution before it devastates an area?
Exactly. Stop it before it happens, not just clean up afterwards. And that raises the question, how much more powerful is that synergy when the science anticipates legal needs and the law leverages scientific foresight? It's a whole new level.
And these breakthroughs started getting noticed beyond just their immediate projects.
Yes. Local leaders, mayors, councils, state legislators started paying attention. Their effectiveness was becoming undeniable.
Which means potential for wider adoption,
Mm.
policy changes, more resources.
All of the above. It showed their model wasn't just successful, it was potentially replicable. A blueprint for systemic change, backed by real-world results that could inspire political action. 4. The ultimate test. A new path. Season 1, Episode 6.
So let's put it all together. The initial meeting, the hands-on project, the viral video, surviving the data crisis, navigating bureaucracy and internal friction, creating these amazing breakthroughs. It all built this incredible momentum. They proved their model worked, and then opportunity didn't just knock, it kicked the door down, but in a complicated way.
It's the classic result of doing groundbreaking work. Success attracts more opportunities. But these specific offers, while fantastic on paper, created this huge personal dilemma because they were individual offers, not for the Nyla and Brody team. Two separate paths opened up, a real fork in the road for a partnership defined by walking together.
Right where personal ambition meets the shared mission head-on, let's break down those offers. Nyla first. She gets offered the chance to lead a groundbreaking research initiative. For her, the dedicated scientist. This is the dream, right? The peak.
Potentially, yes. Think about the scale. This isn't just another research grant. It means potentially vast resources, access to top-tier labs, maybe millions in funding, a national or even global stage. Imagine her leading a major national climate resilience task force, or directing a huge university research program with the freedom to chase the biggest scientific questions, using cutting-edge AI climate modeling, developing new satellite tech for monitoring.
Diving deep into the fundamental science she loves.
Exactly. Pushing boundaries, potentially shifting the whole scientific understanding in her field, leaving a massive legacy in environmental science itself. For a researcher aiming for maximum scientific contribution, for work that could shape global policy. Incredibly tempting, the purest form of scientific achievement, maybe.
And at the same time, almost like fate intervening, Brody gets his own huge offer, a prestigious position at a top law firm. What does that mean for him, the committed advocate?
For Brody, it's the parallel peak in the legal world. A top-tier firm offers immense platform influence, resources he likely couldn't access before. He might be heading their entire environmental law division, taking on massive corporate accountability cases against major polluters, leading big teams of lawyers, huge financial backing for litigation.
Real power within the legal system.
Absolutely. A chance to influence major legal precedents, shape national policy debates, fight for environmental justice on a much bigger scale, making systemic legal change from a position of significant institutional power. It's the advocate's dream, really.
So Nyla gets the dream science gig, Brody gets the dream law gig. Sounds perfect, but here's the rub, the absolute core of the conflict in episode 6.
Right. These incredible life-changing offers force them to seriously confront the possibility that their paths are splitting, maybe for good.
Their individual dreams, the very things that probably drove them to collaborate in the first place, are now, ironically, pulling them in opposite directions.
And this is probably the deepest challenge their partnership ever faced. Because remember, this wasn't just a partnership of convenience. It was built intentionally, forged through shared purpose, deep empathy, understanding each other's worlds, right back to that seminar.
Their whole journey was about bridging that gap between science and law, proving that fusion was essential.
Exactly. Now, the challenge isn't external, not an industry opponent, not red tape, not bad data. It's internal. It's their own aspirations, their own desires for growth and impact in their specific fields.
It's one thing to stand together against an outside threat. It's another when the choice is between the use you've built and these huge individual opportunities.
Can that bond, the one strengthened by every trial, every fight, every win, can it withstand this? The genuine allure and the real good they could do individually.
And what happens to the collaboration itself? The engine of their impact, does it get sacrificed if they take these separate, tempting paths?
The stakes are incredibly high, not just personally, but for what they represent, that whole model of science and law working together. That synergy they proved was so powerful.
It really hits that fundamental question. Can a shared mission survive when individual paths diverge so much? Or does personal ambition, even noble ambition, inevitably pull things apart? Their decision felt like it could redefine everything they'd worked for. The ethical choice wasn't simple right versus wrong. It was about personal fulfillment versus collective impact. The Legacy of Harmony. Season 1, Episode 7, The Culmination. So, after facing that ultimate test, that fork in the road with those huge individual offers, what happened? How did they resolve it? Season 1, Episode 7, Legacy of Harmony gives us the answer. And it's not dissolution, it's, well, a culmination, a doubling down on their shared commitment.
Yes, it shows them reflecting deeply on their journey, on everything they've been through, and asking, what legacy do we really want to leave? And the answer wasn't individual glory. It was about their collective impact.
And that reflection wasn't just navel-gazing, right? It was grounded in all those challenges they overcame together.
Absolutely. That initial meeting, the viral video, surviving the data crisis, battling bureaucracy, navigating internal disagreements, every single step strengthened their partnership. It wasn't just about getting through it. It was about growing together, deepening that empathy, realizing their combined effort was truly irreplaceable for the kind of change they wanted. They knew the value of their unique connection.
And the episode climaxes with something big. They don't just keep doing projects, they launch this comprehensive policy initiative, something that weaves together all their work, aiming to actually codify sustainable practices into law.
This is the ultimate expression of their synergy. It's not just another project, it's systemic, lasting change.
What might that look like in practice? How does it show their combined strengths?
Imagine something like a major piece of legislation, maybe a National Climate Adaptation and Resilience Act, but designed differently. Nyla's team might provide the scientific backbone, maybe protocols for dynamic environmental impact assessments that use advanced modeling, geospatial data to predict climate risks decades out, identifying vulnerable spots.
So the science is embedded in the law's requirements.
Exactly, not just an appendix, but part of the operational framework. Then Brody's team crafts the legal language mandating this science-driven planning, maybe establishing specialized environmental courts or creating funding mechanisms like green bonds tied directly to Nyla's verifiable scientific metrics.
Wow, so it's truly integrating the science and law at the highest level.
It showcases their ability to not just innovate scientifically, but to embed those innovations into practical, enforceable legal structures. It builds directly on those earlier successes where local leaders took notice, but now scales it up to lasting governance.
And as they achieve this, they must also see the ripple effect, right? How their partnership didn't just change their careers, but the community itself.
Oh, definitely. That's a key realization for them in this final episode. It
It's
validates their whole strategy of community engagement. Remember that pivot, turn to roots. It wasn't just a tactic. It revitalized their mission, built allies, grounded their work. Their journey, starting at that seminar, moving through projects like Water Warriors, it culminates in real, lasting impact, proving that bottom-up, science-informed legal strategy can genuinely reshape things.
And it speaks to that ethical commitment, too, ensuring the benefits reach the communities on the front line.
Exactly. And as the season wraps up, Nyla and Brody are looking forward, united, hopeful. Their journey isn't over.
If anything, it feels like they're just getting started on a new level.
Right. Their shared vision endured, strengthened by the challenges, including those tempting individual offers. They're now positioned to inspire others, maybe even become voices in global climate discussions, a real testament to collaborative power.
Looking back at the whole Heartfelt Harmony arc, these core themes just jump out, don't they?
They really do. First, collaboration. Their story is the ultimate case study in how different fields, science and law here, create something much bigger together.
Then resilience. Their ability to just keep pushing through bureaucracy, data crises, industry opposition, it's unwavering.
Third, that power of interdisciplinary connections. It's not just helpful, it's the key to their breakthroughs, enabling totally new solutions.
Fourth, the importance of community engagement. That pivot wasn't just strategic, it was transformative, building essential public support.
Fifth, the constant ethical considerations. Facing powerful interests, ensuring data integrity, fighting for justice ethics are woven throughout.
And finally, personal growth. They didn't just change the world around them, the challenges changed them, strengthening them individually and collectively. It was a truly shared, impactful journey. The story of Nyla and Brody in Heartfelt Harmony really is a profound reminder, isn't it? Of the huge potential when science meets law, when passion fuels that resilience, and when a shared vision genuinely builds bridges to a better future. We saw collaboration, resilience, the power of linking disciplines, community power, ethical choices, and personal growth all intertwined.
It leaves you thinking, doesn't it? It raises a question for all of us listening right now. How does the integrity of our own work, whatever we do, depend on the integrity and collaboration of others? And when you face that choice, the shiny path of individual achievement versus the maybe messier but potentially deeper impact of sticking with a collaboration, where does true legacy really get built? Nyla and Brody's choice suggests that maybe the most lasting impact comes not from one person's brilliance, but from that harmonious, resilient, ethical fusion of different strengths, all aimed at a shared greater good. It really makes you wonder, what bridges are you building?
Join us next time on The Deep Dive as we continue to explore the intricate and inspiring narratives that shape our world.